Africa TV, Freak Up Studio, live. 2023 GSL Season 2.
Hey, I feel amazing.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Season 2 of the GSL Codeast. We are back in the studio. Thank God. I couldn't be more happy. I'm here with State. How you doing, man?
Oh, it's so good to be back, man. I miss this place.
Yeah.
I miss being able to look over, see all those gamers ready to play out their minds. And,
Yeah, I mean,
it's fantastic. It's a whole new different vibe.
Yes.
Feels like the good old days. I'm happy.
It's been so cool to see the support online, the support on Patreon, and the fact that we're able to once again do this in the original studio. I guess not the actual original studio. That was across town, but the studio that for most of you have known that we've been doing this in for the whole time. If you did miss Season 1, it was a tough time. Obviously, Blizzard's been in a bad spot. We didn't get the same kind of support that we had before. And so Season 1 was done online. We were here in the building. You and I were. But the players were playing from home. But with the vocal support from the community, they have convinced Africa TV to put it back here in the studio, and that's where we are right now.
Yeah, and it couldn't be better. I mean, I just love being in the studio so much history, and it's a different vibe, you know, walking into the studio and knowing that there's going to be fans in the audience, the players are going to be on stage.
It's the full esports experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the good thing about StarCraft is that you can have great games online and you can do it with a very low budget, but there's something special about showing up in person, seeing the matches actually happen right in front of you with one player on this side of the stage, the other over there, hearing the commentary, meeting other fans that come down, whether they're local here in Seoul or they've traveled across the world to see the games, and that's what we've got now. I think it's 12 years now of GSL, so still the longest standing esports tournament of all time. That includes StarCraft 1, Star Leagues, everything. And here we are proving once again we can keep going.
It's going to be hard to beat. 12 years.
Yeah. It's going to be a long time to beat.
Thousands of GSL matches, so many champions. Maru's already got 6 of them. He's going to be playing today in Group A on his quest to get a 7th here in 2023. That journey's going to begin now. Can't wait to get kicked off as we get a look here on the schedule. Of course, here July 4th in Korea, round of 16 Group A will be every Tuesday and Thursday for the next couple of weeks, leading up to the finals on July 27th, where we will have both the semifinals and the finals live in studio.
That's right. We're going to have this entire tournament sorted out in this month. So it'll be every Tuesday and then Thursday, and then in the final week we take that Tuesday off, let the players rest and gear up for the big moment. And then we have the semifinals and the finals all in one day.
Yeah, and every Friday, tickets for the following week will go on sale. You can buy those online. I think it's about 8,000 won, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's about $6 US, give or take.
Yeah, and they're online available up until 7:30. We start the show at 6:30, so you can even get here a little bit late and, you know, still get some help navigating through the App Store and finding a way to buy those tickets. And of course, if you want to support the GSL, you can do it on Patreon. You can also do it on Africa TV if you're watching live, or even if the channel is down. I mean, you don't have to tune in live to be able to support with Star Balloons.
But most people watch the VODs, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, with the time the show is at. So if you're watching this in a recording, you can still support it. But, you know, this is kind of the nature of you know, content creation now. Is you go directly to the viewer. It's what we did in ASL. It's happening now here in GSL. And so your support is very much appreciated. And with that support, you do get some perks. You get access to replays and other stuff. It's all available if you go check that Patreon out. So for the group phase here, and again, if you did miss Season 1, GSL is a little bit tighter now. There's less players. And so we go right into the round of 16 to start things off. We've got a very Terran-heavy group with the exception of Classic. And this may very well be the group of death, but these other groups obviously very exciting. To see all these players duke it out. Let's not forget that we actually had an extremely Terran-heavy GSL last season, which really didn't happen for about 10 or 11 years in GSL.
Yeah, from GOM TBT to Africa TBT is a decade separated them, but it felt like the good old days, you know, with MVP,
right?
You know, just racking up championship after championship. We had 4 Terrans in the top 4, and you know, the same map pool here in GSL Codeast Season 2, if I'm not mistaken. So we might have more of the same. We'll have to see how the other races adapt, and you know, starting things out here in Group A with Maru, TY, Classic, and Bunny. 2 very strong Terran players right here, right now. But TY historically, you know, a GSL champion, one of the best players to touch the Terran race of all time.
Yeah. Real quick note, too. We do have, again, a Terran-heavy round of 16 to start this off. We got to see as we get around to the round of 4 if it's actually going to stay that heavy. There's a possibility it's a very Terran-dominant tournament once more. And as you were saying, State, with TY coming back here, I mean, this was the other great Terran player. Maru never stopped playing. He has not had to do his compulsory military service just yet. He's on the lower end as far as age goes on the pros. So, you know, that pressure wasn't quite there yet, although he will eventually have to serve as well. TY did his service and then also went into commentary for some time. And so, you know, obviously playing in a GSL again doesn't mean you have to stop commentating, but it's going to be very exciting to see how exactly he's going to fare here against Maru, because it's undeniable. As good as TY has been historically, Maru is going to be the favorite coming into this.
We've seen a lot of players also come back from military service or come back from breaks and really struggle to get the ball rolling. I think you know, Hero is one of the few players that truly broke that mold and found near immediate success in his return back to the game. And you know, TY wasn't able to qualify from Season 1, but here in Season 2, he's back. It's a question mark, you know, where his TVT exactly is at, though, because he's going up here against Maru, who, as we just said, won a GSL against...
I love these empty stats we have here.
I mean, it's been a long hiatus. But, you know, Maru, he emerged victorious from a top 4 that had only Terrans. But that doesn't tell the full story, because keep in mind, he also lost to Oliveira in the World Championship. That was a TVT. And then in the Summer Championship, he also lost to Gumiho 3-2 as well. So he has shown that, you know, he's not impervious in this matchup, despite historically being, you know, arguably the best TVT player of all time.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I do hope it's a close one as well. I would definitely welcome a TY upset here. I think if you're going to be a betting man, you got to say probably Maru is going to take this, but TY is going to be cooking something up. Let's see what he's got in store for us here. Of course, Maru coming off of a GSL domination here. How exactly is this game going to look with, you know, the current modern and, frankly, historically the best Terran we've had here in GSL in Korea, going up against TY, who has at times gone toe-to-toe, been the best of the best, and, of course, come back for military service as well as casting the GSL. Let's go into Game 1.
2023 GSL Season 2. Onside Gaming, Maru. Kwangdong Freaks, TY.
Big cheers here for TY. He went gas before Rax, by the way.
Yeah, gas first into his second gas, so going to be a really high-tech opening coming out of TY. And 2-Rax opening here from Maru, okay.
So this is a moment where we have two pretty peculiar builds right away. You know, normally when you do a build that's sort of, it kind of plays around the normal build, you are relying on your opponent doing a pretty ordinary opening to kind of come in there and punish. So there's always something special about two players doing very weird builds that probably don't anticipate the other player doing the build that they're doing, where you can have some pretty fun and weird interactions.
Yeah, and they're both a little bit offbeat, and I don't know exactly how 2-Rax plays into this super fast factory tech, and Maru here, the SCV scout, will be able to confirm exactly with the timing. Hello from France. Welcome everybody. So good to have you here.
Good to have people in the audience again. Welcome, guys.
Of course, it's
glad to have you down here.
Fantastic having an audience.
You know, the first day we did Season 1, I think a lot of people didn't get the message, and so we had it was so sad. We had to go and tell people who had like flown out here that there was no studio event, and look at their faces, and I'm like, oh God, this is the worst day of my life.
There's some sad conversations.
Some very awkward conversations. But it's good that we finally, you know, got the show back where it needs to be. So yeah, welcome everybody. So excited to have you guys down here. We've got a CC being made over here for Maru.
Yeah, both players expanding on the low ground here. Notably, no add-ons for TY, so he's just going to be pumping out Reapers and Hellions from add-on lists. structures in the main base. Meanwhile, Maru now adding in that second refinery. And, I thought for a moment we might see Maru try to find a timing perhaps maybe with, 4 or 5 Reapers. See if he can maybe pick off a Hellion or pick off, the lower Reaper count that TY is going to have. But instead, just content to sit back in his base. In fact, even going for a bunker because he is anticipating that Reaper Hellion attack to come through later. And this is something that has been dangerous. I think it was in the Summer Championship where Maru faced off against Gumiho, who did a very similar opening to what TY is doing right now. And if it starts to snowball, with Reapers and Hellions coming into your natural expansion when you, as the fast expanding player, only really have Reapers, a lot of damage can add up very quickly. But here, Maru playing safe.
Yeah, it's actually been a little bit of a slower game than I had expected. Probably not a good idea right now for either side to attack into each other. But we do have a lot of these openings where basically you get one medevac out and you have a mishmash of units you try to send out and attack in. We saw Maru do this a lot, especially versus Oliveira, although it did backfire. But I think the ideas are still valid. And so we've got that set up. He's going to be headed out over here. Obviously, with the timing of the tech, for TY, he's going to be the first to initiate. Since Maru didn't go for double racks, he's just going to have that other tech develop a little bit later on. The scout didn't really see that much and certainly didn't see the second barracks, which would have been the most important find there.
Yeah, I think he should be able to tell based on the Reaper count that something like a 2 racks was the opening here for Maru, but let's see what 8 damage he's able to find. And man, TY playing with so much confidence now. He's been throwing down the 3rd CC behind this, and here comes the medevac in the main base. 1 Widow Mine, 1 Hellion, a Reaper, and a handful of Marines. Trying to find some damage. Nice connection there. 4 SCVs already going down.
It looks like he actually is not going to get that medevac. It's barely going to get away, but a pretty easy cleanup there on the ground. 4 SCVs were killed, which means that that attack itself probably didn't pay for itself. It would have been devastating for TY had he lost the medevac. Fortunately, he does get that out. Maru is going to continue to develop in this game, about to finish stim here. And it looks like he's on the hunt. I don't think he's going to find this medevac, though. It's too far gone.
No, I think he's a little bit too far behind that one. And notably, Maru did send that Reaper into the main base of TY during that drop, and he absolutely did see the 3rd command center there. So Maru, with consistently good scouting here in match number 1, has a very good idea of exactly where TY is at now. And TY having gone for that early harass-based opening, losing a lot of units. Yes, he did kill those 4 SCVs, and yes, he did trade out and kill, I think, a couple of Maru's Marines. That is some damage, but the army supply, or at least the strength of the armies, should favor Maru here up until these 3rd bases get running.
Yeah, well, I mean, he hasn't sacrificed anything, right? He's played a very, very passive game, basically receiving anything from TY and shutting it down pretty nicely. We are going to have Cloak finish up here. I don't know how much the Reaper was really able to scout and identify as far as what's happening there. I'm sorry, there's no 3rd command center for Maru, right?
It's just
I'm sorry, it's being put on low ground. My bad. And so that means that they're going to stay pretty even. I thought for a second when I saw 2 eBays making, I thought, oh man, and no CC, this is going to be an interesting one where Maru's going to have to win. Anyways, it's actually pretty even.
TY's going mech, by the way. He does not have stim pack, if I'm not mistaken, and there's no tech lab on any barracks, adding in a 2nd factory now. So there is a point of vulnerability where, before TY really has all the tools in his belt to dispatch any attack or harassment that Maru sends his way, Maru can potentially find some damage here. And I wonder, with TY using that medevac to scout, I think that Maru should have a very good idea that this is not a unit that TY is really prioritizing here, that it is going to be mech. And yeah, another factory going down. That'll bring the total up to 3.
Very cool to see him going for this now versus Maru, of all people. Because I do feel like Maru tends to handle this style pretty well. That being said, Gumiho has managed to kind of hang and make his own games work, but I do think Gumiho and TY are such very, very different players. It's going to be interesting to see how this interaction goes, and especially as we go into Game 2, and if we're lucky enough to get a Game 3, is this going to be a theme for TY, or is this sort of a one-off tech in a best of 3?
Yeah, that Banshee finding some good damage. As 2 medevacs come into the natural expansion here of TY, there is a siege tank in range. They will take some damage, decide to lift up, go into the main base instead. Meanwhile, Banshee, the natural expansion of Maru, deflected here by this turret.
All right, Maru's going to come through here. He is going to pick back up. There's no Viking or anything to basically punish. The medevac's moving over. In fact, he's going to go ahead and just drop right on this tank. That's going to be another kill. Now, remember, when you're going mech and you start to hemorrhage tanks here and there, that actually adds up to quite a bit later on. It takes a meching player longer to get to where they need to be than the bio player, just because factories, it takes longer to tech up to them and everything about them is more expensive, right? So if you can pick off a couple tanks, the actual momentum that you're going to have later on in the game can really, really be heard.
Yeah, and Maru just continuing to cause problems here for TY as the missile turret's not ready yet. Both of them do get canceled. Actually, I think that might have been a mistake by TY canceling the one here on the right side, but in any case, both of them will be restarted. Armory now going down for Maru is... No, TY, although that siege tank did get picked off, oh, hold that thought actually, Tasteless, is 4 medevacs going to come into the main. There's only 1 tank here, 1 more popped.
Yeah, and there's 3 tanks inside the drop here for TY, you know, and a lot of times tank versus tank just comes down to a numbers game. So he's going to drop on yet another tank, and he can immediately slide over to the right and gun down that one before the SCVs really even have the moment to repair that. And this is going to be a very difficult position to control here. You know, it's a little bit of a boxy area, so the infantry the TY does have can't quite get over there as neatly as they would have wanted to. It looks like TY should just barely have enough to clean this up, but certainly losses were suffered there for TY.
Yeah, in the meantime, Maru coming into the natural expansion, dropping on another tank. Should be able to pick it off here with these Stim Marines as he just continues to find good damage here. And you got to wonder whether this is going to be too much here for TY, as, you know, maybe the main drop he can come back from that one, but with this follow-up attack here in the natural expansion, taking down, I think, 15 more SCVs, the damage is really mounting.
Yeah, you know, and it seems like what Maru is able to do is very carefully pick apart these positions. And again, the tank count is just getting reset over and over right now. I don't know where it's set exactly right now. I'm sure the observer will show us in a second. But for the number of factories and the number of tanks that have been made in this game, I can't emphasize enough how uncomfortable this spot is right now for TY. He's basically just not quite able to get this game to where it needs to be. And it's a funny thing where you see a player who's going for bio kind of win in the tank fight itself over and over. I think that is in part because the way that TY went into mech, he kind of hit it for a little bit. It wasn't an immediate mech play. He kind of teched up into everything and got a decent number of infantry, which leaves a very small window of time for you to actually come in with your infantry and tank and offset positionally the Terran. And that's exactly what happened back here.
Yeah, and on top of that, Maru just keeps picking him apart. I mean, there really hasn't been any substantial anti-air for TY this entire game, so these drops just continue to go uncontested. Even the missile turrets continuously were denied there earlier on, and, you know, Maru, he drops a couple units off. He wants to pick off one more here in the corner to make a follow-up drop easier, but at this point, you know, momentum firmly in Maru's favor, as, you know, drop after drop after drop, not only picked off siege tanks, but damaged the economy of TY. And, you know, to his credit, he's been pumping SCVs this entire time, actually still ahead on workers, but...
Yeah, and, you know, it's funny because when the tank count is kept pretty low, suddenly the incorporation of Marauders into the group, you can just shut down mech. You know, a lot of what mech relies on is the first volley of siege tanks do so much damage that the fight after that doesn't even make any sense. You're better off running away or not engaging with it at all. But when that tank count is kept low, you can start to set up these killing blows. By the way, this command center is going to get shot down. And we're kind of seeing, you know, Maru do, I think, the most Maru stuff that we could ever see, which is that he's both attacking and outgrowing at the same time, which is, you know, really all you would ever have to do in an RTS game to win.
Yeah, and TY, he's trying his best he can to pump out enough siege tanks where he can finally start to cover all of this terrain, because, you know, Maru's just been sectioning off 1 siege tank or 2 siege tanks at a time, destroying them, and then just coming back in and killing more once they pop from TY. So TY never really hit that critical mass where he was able to cover all his bases. And so Maru now taking a 4th expansion, coming in once again with a drop in the natural of TY. There's only 1 siege tank here in the main base already set up, and Maru potentially overextending a little bit here. But I mean, again, the anti-air is so lacking for TY. Still no Vikings on the field.
Yeah, you know, without Vikings, you're kind of able to pick up and run out with impunity, and that's exactly what's happening here now. He's even going to get that last kill on the tank. And yeah, he can kind of load and unload. And, you know, a turret's going to be made, but you can always drop in there and pick that off. And I think from here, he'll probably just boost and roam right back out and look for more opportunities elsewhere.
Finally, TY is starting to add in some Vikings, recognizing this is, an issue that cannot stand any longer. But Maru's ground forces are so strong, and with the way that he's been playing this entire mid-game, attacking the main base, the natural, the third expansion, TY has in his mind that he needs to cover all these different sections on the map. But now Maru, he's clustering all of his forces here on the north side, and TY luckily does get wind of this. He scans it, so he knows exactly where Maru's positioned. And Maru was able to catch him unprepared.
With now having even less Vikings, you can just dump on top of the tanks. That's exactly what's going to happen here. This actually could be the most devastating moment here right now. I mean, it's another big reset. It looks like he still has more that he could drop on there, but it's one thing to get, that amount of medevacs and be able to float around, but when you see TY still hasn't gotten enough Vikings to drive the medevacs away, it's kind of hard to even have your own tanks in siege mode, right? Because they can just drop right on top of there.
And this is kind of a hard game to wrap your head around, because looking at the units lost, it's about 2k res in the favor of Maru right now. But TY, he's getting to the point where he might actually start to stabilize. And, he has upgrades coming in. Weapons upgrade level 2 just completed. His unit composition is very strong. It's only 20 Marauders and 14 Marines on the field for Maru. So despite all of that early momentum that Maru has had, TY is somehow able to secure this 4th base. If he's able to reach a maxed army, which now he's only 16 supply away from, maybe the momentum can finally start to move in his favor.
Yeah, it's really been TY on the receiving end for basically this entire game. But one thing about, going for mech is eventually you can get enough mustered up that you're able to finally start to take control of the game and fight back.
Battle cruisers, though, are the transition here for Maru, and, anti-air really has been thin for TY this entire time, and this is one of those problems as you reach 200 supplies, you can't really change your unit composition anymore. Maru just, playing mobility to its best effect here. He's going to try and pick off this command center. Luckily, was not yet a planetary, so able to lift and escape, but Maru, he's getting a good look at this army. There's only 3 Vikings. There's, a handful of totally unupgraded Marines, and once these BCs come out, there isn't much of an answer here for TY, and he's still remaxing on tanks, and although he is trickling in Vikings, he only has 5 on the field.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. He has basically, you're right, State, he's gotten to kind of the point that he wanted, but yeah, I mean, the tanks are utterly useless if the battlecruisers are out here.
Yeah, battlecruisers now on the field. I want to see the production tab and see exactly what the response here is going to be for TY. It looks like 3 Cyclones in production, but these 2 BCs already doing so much work.
And remember that tanks unsieged are actually slower than Stimmed Marauders and Marines. So you have a funny situation where the battlecruisers can force them to unsiege, and then the infantry run behind and just catch up and kill everything.
Especially with concussive shell, too. I mean, we see Marauders getting dropped out of medevac, slowing down these siege tanks, and suddenly, in the blink of an eye, all of TY's maxed army just disappears from the screen to these 2 battle cruisers.
And this is, it's been a really interesting game as far as how Maru's moved around the map and position, but it's almost even more impressive to watch how he's basically just stayed ahead in tech, to the point where TY is sort of playing a losing game the whole time.
Yeah, it's been really a masterclass in that sense. Is even when the trades were not cost efficient in Maru's favor, towards the later end of that, he was still confirming that Maru's just, TY is just pumping out these siege tanks. He has to really to withstand the storm that is Maru's drops coming in from every possible angle, and it felt like a trap almost, a meta trap that Maru was setting for TY, leading him down the wrong path of unit composition. TY thought he had this big window with this maxed army where finally he could get something done, but 2 BCs shut it down, and now Maru with an almost full air switch, pumping in Vikings, more battle cruisers. Yamato cannon is now done. It's looking really good for Maru, and behind all of this, just massively out-expanding TY.
Yeah. Now, it's not over till it's over. And so, TY still might be able to make something happen, but it does feel like Maru, is basically able to address any situation that could come his way. We've got him moving in here now, and some really nice play here by Maru. He's going to come through here. He should be able to easily obliterate these tanks. And even though supplies have dropped a little bit here for Maru, it was actually just infantry. It doesn't really matter. The battlecruiser count isn't getting any smaller. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a funny way to end it, but I do not blame TY for leaving at that moment at all. I know we have a lot of TVTs that, you see a moment like that and it would have gone on for 10 more minutes, but I think TY kind of realized he had basically painted himself into a corner. I was curious what he had in store when he went for that attack up the middle. And you look at it and you go, oh, there's nothing you can do. you've been teched, basically, Maru, someone runs circles around you, he teched circles around TY.
Yeah, was constantly staying a base ahead too, at least during the majority of that. So, Maru with a really fantastic game number 1, but I gotta say, for TY's first match back here in the GSL Code S, he looked really good trying to play Maru against Mech. Or Maru against Mech. Mech against Maru, of all players here, right? I mean, that was a solid game on altitude.
Well, Maru played Maru against Mech. That's what he brought, and it worked out. We're going to go to Gresvin for map 2. Is TY going to go for the same tech? I don't know. Remember that wasn't just like a Mech right out of the gates. It was a very kind of protracted Mech play. He got a lot of other upgrades. And it wasn't until we were pretty far along off of 3 bases that we were like, oh yeah, he's really going to go for full-on mech. And Maru saw a real opportunity. He said, okay, well, you don't have that many tanks. In fact, I have about the same amount of tanks as you. And I have more infantry. Your factories haven't kicked in yet. So he started darting around the main specifically and just started picking off tanks and kind of keeping the numbers low and just kept growing. And really, that's where Maru got himself into the winning position. The teching from there was great, too. But he really just kind of saw that one small period of time where there's weakness and went for the jugular.
Yeah, the anti-air for TY desperately lacking, and Maru made him pay for that in spades as he takes game number 1 in convincing fashion. Let's see if he can repeat it as game number 2 is loading up. Let's go to ESL Gresvin.
2023 GSL Season 2. On-site gaming, Maru. Kwangdong Freaks, TY.
All right, going into game 2 here. I think that we're going to have something a little bit different from TY. I think the idea of what he did was cool, but you could see he wasn't able to really make it go anywhere in that game.
Yeah, although I do wonder, if Maru didn't come in with that dropship and kill, those handful of missile turrets early on in the game, and those had gotten up and, sectioned off the top side of his main base from future drops, maybe TY really could have just consolidated his forces and gotten the ball rolling, right? Because throughout the mid-game, there was just so much almost uncontested damage from Maru, resetting the key unit count, and also killing, I think it was like 20-plus SCVs from TY. And if that hadn't happened, maybe it's TY winning game 1 instead of Maru. Maybe TY has enough tempo that he can push before Maru can really achieve that kind of tech switch in the battle cruisers that won him the game, right?
Yeah.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, that's a depot? Okay. I'm like, is it a very small barracks? Like, what's he doing?
It's the world's tiniest starport.
It makes little tiny Marines that come out of it? That's cool.
It's like Warcraft 3. Like you go pick up like the tiny town hall from the item shop. You just plant it down. But yeah, definitely going to be a different build here from TY. He did not go gas first, although he didn't wall off either. He went 1 barracks into instant double gas. So still playing a little bit offbeat from what is more of a standard meta that Maru is playing, although 2 racks also in and of itself is not necessarily standard here in TBT. I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to say after casting the round of 4 of GSL last season because we saw such a wide range of builds from pretty much every different Terran player, right? About what is meta and what is not. But yeah, we'll see where TY decides to take this one. He's already building the starport, going for Widow Mines and 1 Hellion, one Widow Mine, 1 Hellion, and Reaper again. So it's quite actually similar in terms of unit composition to what he did in game number 1, just getting there a little bit differently.
I like the depot actually out there at the 9 o'clock spot. It's like, there's so many moments where it's 2 base versus 2 base and some weird drop comes in and it's all about if that drop works or not. Why would you not just put a depot out there to spot? Because there's so many moments, especially on this map, they can use that left side to slide all the way up into the back of your main without you seeing it until it's too late.
That's a move that we see Protoss players do a lot with their pylons, but not something that Terrans necessarily do. And Zergs, they have those Overlord spotting for them, but...
Yeah. And creep tumors and everything else. They got
They got unlimited
they got a lot.
vision.
They're doing fine. No, I mean I like seeing ideas like that. Every time I would get to cast TY, he'd always do these like small simple things where I just like have my hand on my chin, like nodding my head, like yes, yes, I see why you do that. You are good at RTS.
It's very satisfying in that way to watch him play.
Okay, so here comes that drop.
A nice catch by Maru coming in with that Reaper Scout. Not only going to be getting into the main base here and seeing exactly what the building layout is for TY, but also spotting that medevac moving across the top of the map. And he might even get an SCV with this. One more hit. He got it. That is a clutch Reaper, man.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, you know, the Reaper's not going to have any use further along in the game, so to get that little kill is pretty nice. The Cyclone's going to come down, but the drop's already going to be set up here and ready to go. And since the Widowmine can't target an SCV, yeah, he wants his Widowmine to basically stay alive and kill off some other unit. Oh my God, he almost picked it up.
Almost got it. Just a little bit behind from that Cyclone there, and well, TY, at least he didn't lose as much as he did in the first drop. And behind us, Maru actually going for a third command center. So a lot of greed from Maru here. Keep in mind, you know, game number 1, he went for a much later third CC on the low ground, but this time quite rapid with that expansion, and Maru wants to find this medevac.
Yeah, he's on the hunt right now. TY staying very fluid here on the map. We've got the Viking now coming in here.
He has cornered this thing off with the Cyclone too. Luckily the Siege Tank coming in will get a lot of damage in.
Yeah, TY's fine, right?
Yeah, he should be.
Wait a minute!
Oh, I'm surprised he
Oh
sieged.
my God, what a weird interaction. The Viking's gonna get shot down. That was quite a back and forth in the middle of the map. I wasn't sure if either the tank or the Viking, or the Cyclone was gonna get killed off there.
Cyclone, Tank, and Liberator all I think had maybe 15 or less HP. Everything one hit away from dying, but each of those units somehow staying alive. That was crazy.
Okay, so the starport, another one now being made over here for TY.
Huh. I wonder whether we're going to see something more 2-base focused, like a contain style where we just try to play the air game. And
well, I think so. I mean, I think that especially, you ever played like a long game for somebody where you would just look back, you're like, I was never winning this the whole time. I think that's how TY feels about that last game. I think he wants to try to take a more active approach and basically try to stop Maru as he tries to develop.
Yeah, pumping Vikings 3 at a time here is going to mean that he will certainly have air superiority for, you know, the near future. And the question is whether Maru's forces on the ground, I mean, Stim only about a third of the way done, will be enough to deflect his attack. Luckily for Maru, he's in a pretty good spot, but keep in mind, TY, that Liberator did not die. And so if you do have air superiority here as TY, and you siege your tanks just like he did, he can force Maru to retract. So for Maru trying to take a third base, suddenly it becomes a very difficult problem to solve. And I think we're going to see Maru just kind of sit comfortably on 2 bases for as long as he can. Now the Cyclone will be able to get the Liberator. Oh, barely?
Oh,
barely
no.
missed. He lost vision.
Yeah, he couldn't see it. That's actually pretty bad.
I think he thought that he killed it.
Yeah.
Now the SCV is going to repair it back to full.
Yeah, moments like that, especially in TVT, are devastating. Because, yeah, as you were saying, repair, you're going to get that back to full health. It's going to get way more value in the long run. Now, note that he's not pushing a base. There's nothing over here. He's basically pushing a line that if he's able to break through this area, it's going to be Maru contained. And that's going to be a big problem because there's more Vikings on the map. So dropships aren't very handy.
And by the way, it's not the main story right now, but TY throwing down 2 more supply depots on his side of the map, man. You love to see it.
Yeah, no, he's got very good spotters. There's really no reason why everybody doesn't do this as Terran. But
especially with this like aggressive map control oriented style, right?
Well, this way you don't get surprised by drops. You're going to give yourself probably an extra 5 seconds to react. Now, the question is, how far does TY intend to go with this? He could try to push it towards the main. See how he could basically shell the buildings from the low ground here. Oh. SCVs are pulled, so this is going to be it. Maru says he has to end this right here, right now. The question is, does he actually have enough?
He does have Stim. One of the Siege Tanks is disabled on the south side, and it seems like there is just enough for Maru to break this position. And TY taps out.
Now, the patience there from Maru to basically wait until the last second, because when this tank siege up, it's like, okay, now he's going to hit the infrastructure. This is where it really heats up, and Maru's actually under threat, and that's Maru. He pulled like 10 SCVs, 8 SCVs, something like that.
Yeah, something about that number.
The exact right amount. shut it down. TY taps out. Maru is surviving the very first best of 3 of GSL Season 2 with a 2-0.
Yeah, going to move on to the winners match, and I don't think many people at home would be surprised. You know, Maru, the greatest of all time GSL player here, beating TY in his first Code S back after military service. But I gotta say that game 1 from TY, very impressive. Game 2, I loved a lot of what we saw from him. You know, not only spreading the depots, but also the tactic that he went for, that big contained push. I mean, that's confidence doing that kind of build against Maru. So I don't know, man. TY's looking stronger than I thought. He might still have a good chance of getting out of this group despite going to the losers match.
Up next, guys, Classic vs. Bunny. We'll be right back.